I have to tell everybody how we met and this is an incredible story. I've been following Momables and Laura Fuentes for over 10 years. And I started following her. It's the craziest story. And I actually don't know if you know this, Laura, of how I started following you, but I had ordered on Amazon a couple of easy lunch boxes. My son was going into pre-K 4. It was my first child. I wanted to start making him healthy lunches. So I ordered these easy lunch boxes on Amazon. I get them in the mail. And when I opened the box, inside the lunch box was this little flyer. And the flyer said Momables and had pictures of like this perfectly cut out food and fit perfectly in the lunchbox. And I love the idea so much that I logged on and found you on Instagram and have been, following, stalking, however you want to call it for the last 10 years. So that's how I came across Laura. And then she came out with this book called The Best Homemade Kids Lunches on the Planet. And I remember you launching the book and I was so excited to buy it. I was like I might have been the first person in line to buy the book. And I've had it ever since for the last 10 years. And it's all marked up and it's dirty and it's all mine.
Well loved.
It's just all mine. And I absolutely love it. So I really want to thank you for that. So that's
the best part is that when we randomly, like 5 years ago,
yeah,
we were at an event.
Yeah, but get this. So I go to a convention. I'm at the Summit of Greatness. And I'm walking around in the convention and it's the closing keynoter is speaking. The lights are off in the auditorium and I'm walking up a hallway and I see a glimmer of a face. And I don't know how I was able to identify that was the Laura Fuentes, but somehow I did. And I kind of like walked into the hallway while she's busy listening to somebody speak. And I'm like, excuse me, are you Laura Fuentes? Like a fangirl, something I have never done before in my life. I just was like, and she looked at me like you're weird, but yes, I am Laura Fuentes. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. And I go and I wait for her to come out of the convention so that I can meet her in person and tell her that I am a fan of hers.
No, I wasn't looking at you weird. It was the weirdest thing that among thousands of people, and it's dark, that someone A, would recognize me, and B, I just don't think of myself that way. I live in a really small town that nobody cares. So I was like, is she talking about me? She must have me confused. So we have been in real life friends since then.
Yes.
And what I mean is like somebody that has my cell phone number and that I truly adore. So you guys are in such great hands with Caro all the time. I mean, so I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you. So before we get started, I'm just going to read your bio so that they can get to know your awesomeness. And then we're going to launch into questions. Laura Fuentes is the creator of Momables, where she helps busy parents transform their mealtimes by eliminating processed foods and added sugars with simple, organized meal plans. With her Family Kickstart program, Laura has helped thousands of families improve their health and wellness by establishing healthier eating habits, building a strong mindset, focus on quality sleep, and incorporating physical movement into their lifestyle. She is the author of 5 cookbooks, a successful entrepreneur, public speaker, spokesperson. She makes regular TV appearances. And for those of you who don't know, she competed on Food Network and won. She's got 100,000 followers and YouTube subscribers, making her an official YouTuber, according to her 9-year-old, that is. And Laura is a bilingual, born and raised in Spain, currently lives outside of New Orleans with her husband and 3 kids. In her spare time, she reads, sleeps, and works out. What she loves most is taking her family on travel adventures. You can find out more about Laura on laurafuentes.com, on Instagram at Laura Fuentes and Momables, and right here. So I want you guys all to know that this call is being recorded, but there is a bit of a catch. The replay will be available only to the people in our membership community. So it is, tell your friends if they're not in the membership community to make sure that they log on right now so that they don't miss any of these nuggets of wisdom. If you have any questions for Laura, please feel free to put it on the chat. I will be monitoring it and making sure that all your questions are answered. So where do we begin? I have
so excited. I can barely stay on my seat, you guys. This is like, not only is my favorite thing to talk about, but I'm here with Caroline, so I'm thrilled.
All right. So Laura, the first thing that I think everybody is here for is the tagline, Busy Mom's Guide to a Healthy Lifestyle. I think that's such a loaded tagline, right? Because everybody wants to know, how is it that you can incorporate a healthy lifestyle into the life of being a mom? Now, you have 3 kids. And from what I know from following all these years, you have very different kids. You have some kids that have allergies. You have kids that have that are picky eaters. You have kids that don't eat very well. Can you tell me a little bit of how you navigate all those different personality types in your home?
Yes. So like Caro just said, I have 3 different kids. This has been a journey. And when we first met a decade ago almost, my oldest is 14, and I was really just entering, like many parents, that stage where you transition out of sort of toddlers, meals and smaller things into really incorporating family meal times, right? So when our kids stop eating those tiny plates and tiny servings throughout the day and would really focus on meal times, probably around, I would say, around the age of 4 to 5 for most families. And also is at the time where our kids enter school. So our schedules completely shift, right? Between activities and whether you work from home or outside the home or you are home. I have navigated all of those stages. And for me, the most challenging part was creating meals that the entire family would eat and enjoy. And what I mean by that is not falling into the making multiple meals or the adult meals, or really just continuing on from those early stages of parenting where you eat a meal with your spouse or a partner or by yourself, and then you have something else just because it's age appropriate, right? And I found myself really struggling to meet those demands and balance that, because there is so much chatter about what we should feed our kids and what we shouldn't feed our kids and what's healthy and what's not healthy. And I was born and raised in Spain, where most of it with my grandparents, and you ate what you were served, and if you didn't like it, you found something to eat in that meal, and if not, there's just a meal around the corner. So it wasn't really a big deal to just eat a little bit less of this meal and then wait for the afternoon or dinner time. And so it was really about going back to my roots and understanding of the bigger picture of meal times.
Oh, hold on.
Understanding the bigger picture of meal times, which is not only to connect, not only to nourish our bodies with food, but also to connect with our family at that time, especially at dinner. And I have to tell you that dinner is one of those non-negotiable meals at my house. We have dinner every night. Sometimes I'm standing right next to the stove eating or cleaning, but we're all there. And because, again, the whole balancing act is about prioritizing what's important. So back to your original question is, how do we navigate that healthy lifestyle, right? Between eating clean or good for you meals, to moving our bodies or working out, whatever the stage that you're in, to getting more sleep or enough sleep so we're not zombies. And I know that's really hard as parents to do. So again, it's really taking a step back and prioritizing us or ourselves a tiny bit more than we probably think we do, which is because we, as parents, we are often serving everyone else, meaning by serving is because I come from you love your kids, and it's your job as a parent to love them and bring them. That is from a serving standpoint, right? Not just serving them water, right? It's like that love and the encouragement that comes from many years of raising our kids. So it's really about taking a step back and going, if I don't prioritize what I eat, how much I sleep, what I'm thinking or what I think about myself and the thoughts that I allow to brew in my mood, my mindset. If I don't take a step back and really prioritize that, I'm not going to be able to be a great parent, a great spouse, a great employee, a great person, a great friend. But most importantly, I'm really not going to be good to myself, right?
I totally
So
agree.
a lot of this has been learned. I have to tell, I'll be right up front with you guys. A lot of the things that I teach with my community is from the many years that I invested in therapy for myself, for my kids' issues. You know, like you said, we have picky eating. I thought something was wrong with my child. And at the end of the day, I learned that through many years, and I still go, is that it's really not about them. A lot of it is about the environment that I choose to create in my home.
So that's
Now,
something I really, and that's one of the things I really want to focus on right now. And I wonder, and if you guys can put on the chat, if you guys struggle with this, but I hear a lot of people that struggle with that idea of giving their kids different meals because they feel like their kids are not going to eat whatever it is that they put on the table. So they feel like they're making different things. And what happens in the alternative is, like, if you're making chicken nuggets for the kids, sometimes it's easier for you to eat the chicken nuggets than it is for you to cook yourself a healthy meal because you're in a hurry and you're trying to accommodate for everyone. So with having kids that are picky eaters and having kids that are that have food allergies, do you eat the same food as your kids? I mean, I know you said how you grew up in Spain, but have you been able to do that in your own family?
yeah. So if you're going to make chicken nuggets, you're going to make a chicken nugget night for the whole family. Okay. What I want to make a big distinction is the chicken nuggets and mac and cheese and spaghetti or whatever it is they quote preferred food, the go-to second meal. That is, there's a distinction between offering a second meal to the kids and making spaghetti night, chicken nugget night, incorporating those favorite meals into your family meal rotation. Because what's really important is that the kids feel like their favorites are also served, that they're also an option. So we have chicken nugget night, we have pizza night, we have spaghetti night, but we also have, normal roasted vegetables and potatoes and chicken or whatever it is. Now, does everyone eat the roasted vegetables? No, but they are out and they're offered. This is like really important thing that I teach right away to everyone in my community. And I want everyone, if there's one thing that you are going to leave with today, is that your job as a parent is to offer nutritious foods, meaning you're going to find the recipes, you're going to cook the recipes, and you're going to offer the food. Now, your job, it is not to make your kid eat the food. That when the second you put the food at the table, that's where your responsibility ends. The child's job is to decide which foods they're going to eat. Now, I am here to tell you that if plan B, which is the kid-friendly food, in quotes, is not offered, they're going to pick at some point, because they are hungry, something that's at the table. Now, something to make sure is that there is at least one element that the child will eat in every meal. If my kid only ate chicken last night, and then I happened to be boiling eggs for lunches today. So he ate chicken, he didn't eat the vegetables, and he didn't even eat the Spanish rice, like, which he loves, but he just didn't feel like it. So he only ate chicken. And I was like, all right, that's fine. And he was like, is that okay? I was like, do you feel full? I'm all right. I may want to eat a snack before bed. And I was like, okay. So I never offered a second thing. He just ate chicken. Now, other nights he eats everything that's offered, right? So again, it's really important that you eliminate that guilt of, but they're going to be hungry. Well, I'm going to be hungry in 3 hours, right? But I know that lunch is coming. I'm quite sure that if your pediatrician would say that your child is growing, they don't have health conditions, they're a healthy, happy child. And I really believe when you eliminate that pressure on yourself to offer that second meal, or something else, like don't stress about it, just offer it and go from there. So yes, that is my big food philosophy in a real tight nutshell for you.
So I think that you answered Daisy's question. And Daisy, if you have an additional question about that, go ahead and ask it. She had asked, how do you overcome just making one meal, but your kid's not wanting to eat it? And do they go to bed without eating? So I was going to say to you, and I found this to be an interesting thing that you just said, you're okay with the child going and getting his own snack after dinner? Are you okay with that? Or do you tell the child, no, once dinner's over, you don't eat anymore. That's it. It's time to go to bed.
Okay, this is such a great question. This is such a great question. And so our you know, it really depends when dinner is. A lot of families have really early dinners, like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and they are already doing a before bedtime snack, right? Especially, you know, or if you have kids that are athletes, they're just 4 hours later, they're hungry. So that's another thing. What I always recommend is that you follow what's normal and consistent at your home. So if in my house, we have dinner around 6 o'clock and I have a growing teenager, even if we have dinner at 7:30, like last night was almost 8 o'clock, which is really late. He still asked for like a before bedtime snack 45 minutes later before he went to bed. So I said, sure. Now I have a list of things.
Bedtime snacks.
So it's really a yogurt, healthy fruit. Sometimes we don't eat cereal for breakfast, but we have cereal somewhere. So sometimes he'll make himself oats or a bowl of cereal. You know, it really is about whatever is normal and, again, nutritious at your house, right? Are you going to give them like a bowl of ice cream before bed? I mean, if it's a treat or a Saturday or an occasion, sure. But I would recommend no, because we all know that sugar before bed is really not the best thing. So again, it's just about having the same type of what you would consider a healthy food option at your home, right? Because sometimes for us, it's like an apple or a clementine. You know, like it's nothing extravagant or not. And what I am not doing is cooking another meal. There is zero cooking involved in that before bedtime snack. Okay. When the kitchen is cleaned after dinner, that's it. Right. Like it's gotta be easy to like grab it. Like the minimal is like a spoon or a spoon in a bowl or something like that. We're not reinventing the wheel. So again, I would encourage you guys to follow what's normal at your home, or establish those healthy snacks before bed. Like this son who only ate chicken, he ate 2 hard-boiled eggs before bed. So, you know, so I just offer it. I would start offering it. So then that if the kid knows that even though there isn't a second meal option, or like, you know, if you're making quiches or whatever, and then they're like, oh, well, they're not going to eat that. So I'll just heat up some spaghetti that's left over. You know, again, no second meal. But then before bed, go, hey, does anyone want a bedtime snack? You have this or this, right? So you can even eliminate the kids going, well, oh, sure, can I have ice cream? No. Hey, would you like an apple or would you like a banana before bed? Would you like this or that? So the idea is to eliminate the choices, but still make them feel like they have control over that decision. So, you know, that is again, the philosophy of before bedtime snacks.
So here's the question that I have as a mom. So with this idea, I like the concept of like spaghetti night for the kids. But let's say, for example, like I don't eat spaghetti, me personally. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? Like in other words, if what you consider to be nutritious for your children is not quite as clean as what you yourself or want for your own personal diet, for your own personal goals, mm-hmm. and your own, how do you handle that?
Yeah, so this is a great question because I also don't eat pasta unless it's gluten-free, just from my digestive issues. So the way you handle that is by, so the spaghetti, we rarely have like just spaghetti and butter, for example, or plain spaghetti, because that's not a meal, right? So, and if it is a full meal, then I encourage you, then you're gonna suck it up and eat that meal, because again, you're setting the example. So if that's not part of your meal options, or yours and your spouse's, then you find yourself making 2 meals. So this is where your role reverses. In that meal, there is at least one element that you are going to eat. So if you're having spaghetti with tossed with roasted vegetables or with meat sauce, then just before you toss everything together, if that's the type of recipe that you're making, set some apart for you. So, and I do this all the time. And then I just put that over a bed of lettuce or some more vegetables or, but again, the idea is that if you're going to ask your kids to find an element that they like from dinner, you are going to also find an element that you like from dinner and go from there. So there are times in my house too that the roles reverse because I don't eat certain things.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Now not only have you had 3 kids in your house, but you've also had foster children.
Yeah, and exchange students.
Exchange students.
As well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've had like multiple different personality types and different kinds of eaters and age groups of all kinds. So if anybody has any questions in particular, she's had all different kinds of.
From 0 to 18.
Yeah. So here's a question that I have. Besides the meal plan, besides what you eat, is how do you create a successful meal plan? I know that you are an expert in meal planning, and I'm going to go ahead and confess that I don't meal plan. It's just not something that I do. I eat very healthy, but I've been eating healthy for so long that it doesn't matter that I don't meal plan in terms of eating healthy, but I do recognize that my life would be easier if I meal plan. So I'd love a little bit of insight on how I could do that.
So people ask me all the time, do I really need to meal plan? It's exactly what you said. And my answer to them is, if you're struggling to be consistent with your eating habits, then you must absolutely meal plan, because otherwise you are expecting a result from your habits that you don't have the support for. That consistency is going to tell your subconscious over time that you are a failure. Plain and simple. So, and I'm going to really break this down real quick, is that it's just the same thing as dieting, right? Like, oh, I tried that. Our words really matter and stick to our mind, our subconscious, when we tell these things over and over. So if you buy all this food for the week, and everybody goes to the grocery store with really great intentions when you don't have a plan, and you buy all these things, and you're like, oh, I'm going to make this and make that and whatever. And the end of the week comes around, and you still have half of those things that maybe they've gone bad or you didn't get to use. For a second, I don't know anyone, this is feedback from my community. People say, you look at that food, you're like, oh, I hate to throw this out. I hate that I'm wasting this, right? We feel that paying, even if money is not an issue for you, right? We still feel like we started out so great, and by the end of the week, we are doing something that does not match our intention, right? So our behavior at the end of the week says, I start out great, I'm just really not a finisher, over and over and over. So for Caro, for example, it's already part of her lifestyle to mix and match foods and create healthy meals for her family. And so that's not something that she struggles with. So I would say, if you're not really struggling, then don't meal plan. Focus your time and energy in the things that you're like, you know what, if I just had a little bit more support, I could commit a little bit longer, right? Because at the end of the day, is that commitment to your health that will speak to how you feel about yourself. Right. So if you're making multiple meals and you're exhausted at meal times because you have picky eaters, and it's just like, it really becomes a drag, you are just not going to be excited to make healthier choices, right? You're going to fall into the path of least resistance. So,
you make such a good point. And I've had clients who have told me that food is an energy sucker. It sucks so much of your energy thinking every day what you're going to eat, what's the next meal going to be. And that's a good way to preserve your energy is to.
Well, the reason it's an energy sucker, I'll tell you why. The reason it's an energy sucker, it's because, again, your behavior isn't matching your intention. So you feel dragged out night after night, day after day. So change it. It is so, I know it sounds so simple, but it really is the one thing you can easily control. And that's why I was telling you before we started the call that most people come to me because they're struggling with that food piece. And if the food piece is what you struggle with, okay, then having a done for you plan and eliminating so many options reduces that overwhelm, and it allows you to focus your energy in actually committing to what's important, which is the bigger picture, which is yours and your family's health.
I love that. I love it. Your energy gets sucked when your behavior doesn't match your intention. I mean, that if you get nothing else from today, that was worth it, right? And it's so true. Our intentions have to match our behavior. I live by that philosophy. That is why, that is the whole purpose of my principles, is for your behavior to match your intention. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that the same could be said with exercise and with sleep. And I know that for you, and from our conversations, you're big, you have like a cycle, right? So it's food, sleep, movement, mindset. That's your whole cycle.
Those are my 4 principles of what I live by.
Right, and I do too. But here's a question for you, because you're also a businesswoman and you work a lot. And I know you work a lot and you have a lot of kids. So you have all the excuses not to do any one of these things. How, when somebody is feeling overwhelmed and trying to get healthy just to begin with, right? Like food is like the first thing that they tackle. How do you start incorporating, you, Laura, all the other elements, all the other pieces of it? Because, we can't just go from not being healthy and being sedentary and not sleeping enough to just having like a perfect life tomorrow, right? There has to be like a transition. So if you had to choose one, like which one would you start with? And how do you start incorporating these different elements in your life?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And again, and if you guys still want to know, I think hopefully we have a few minutes. I wanted to answer this question, but if you want to know how to get started meal planning, I'll give you a very simple 3-step formula to do that. Oh my God. But I'll answer this first because I just realized I didn't answer in the last question. So it's really about being honest with yourself and asking, what am I struggling with most, right? How do I feel? And oftentimes we're so overwhelmed, we don't take a pause in our life to really ask ourselves, where is this overwhelm from? Is it too many things on my calendar? Is it not enough sleep? How many cups of coffee? I love coffee, but it's a running joke. Like I really only have 2 cups a day and I cut it out. I cut coffee after 2:00, right? So I can sleep at night. I go to bed usually around 9-ish with my 9-year-old now. I go to bed with my youngest and I read the Wall Street Journal in bed. He falls asleep or I fall asleep with him. So I have my own bedtime routine, and that's really important. I also teach this to establish that bedtime routine. If you're like, oh my gosh, laundry's got to be folded and all these things and all that stuff, then I'm going to tell you, then laundry can wait on the sofa until the next morning or a next time block for laundry the next day, or delegate that. I go around sometimes and I distribute laundry in people's beds, and that's their problem. Now my kids are a little bit older now, but from the 7, when the 9-year-old was 7, like everyone's responsible for their stuff, right? So I really would ask you to, where do you start? You start with what you struggle with most, right? Or what is, out of the things that you struggle with most, which one is the easiest to implement? Is it going to bed at 9:00 with your child or by 10, right? Is 7 to 8 hours of sleep is what I live by, because I've already experienced going into adrenal stress and I spent a month in bed. So that wasn't fun. So I learned my lesson the hard way. But if you have babies at home, this is just really not doable, right? So if you have infants, you're like, I'm barely getting like 5 hours. We've all gone through this, so that this is a period of your time where you give yourself grace and go, if the sleep piece is not what I'm going to be able to focus on right now, maybe I can really focus on eating more nutritious foods so I don't feel so sluggish all the time, right? Because what we eat really has a direct correlation with how we feel. So maybe that you fix the food piece, right? Until it becomes a habit, like for you, Caro. Or you're like, you know what? It's easy for me. We have a stroller. Maybe I'll incorporate 20 minutes a day of doing stroller walks. That alone is movement. So you have to start where you are today, not where somebody on Instagram is, not with what I'm doing, not with what your friend with kids that are 5 years older is doing. Is really taking a hard look at where am I today and what could I use to help and what is the easiest thing to incorporate.
Yeah. I always say success is completion, but it's also deletion. You have to be able to delete from your life if you want to get, your priorities squeezed in there. So that's great. And I love that. I mean, start with what's easiest and what you struggle with the most. That's like such great advice. So thank you for that. So why don't you share with us, and we do have Daisy's asking if on your website you have a list of healthy bedtime snacks. Why don't you go ahead and tell them how much information you have on your website?
A lot. Yes. So actually, both of Momables and even my site, laurafuentes.com, has bedtime snacks, snack routines, sleep routines. You can find a lot of this on there. And, I have snack lists, I have recipes, I've got how to establish a bedtime routine for adults, how to start working out after you have kids. And you will be shocked, but my posts don't incorporate exactly telling you what exercises. That is not my strength. My strength is your mindset and helping you overcome I don't have enough time. I don't know. I'm not an athlete. I'm not ready yet. So that's where I come from in all of my content. This 3-step plan, Daisy, for sure.
We had to go for it. Oh, and by the way, we're putting your link. So Laura gave us a link for all the people who joined our call today to have a free ebook. So we're putting that on our chat for you ladies. So you can download, and it has healthy recipes and grocery lists and a bunch of fun stuff. So you guys can.
And I'm updating that ebook too. So you'll get version 2. After you get version 1, you're going to get a second one that is super comprehensive. So,
all right. What's your 3-step plan?
Okay, so first step is writing down a list of the meals that your family enjoys eating. I know it's not rocket science, but if your kids enjoy nuggets, like we talked about earlier, or spaghetti night, or pizza night, like taco night, write it, even with meal planning, write it down. Understand where your family's preferences are so that you can incorporate them into a rotation. Okay, this is super important because this way, no one feels like they're left without, right? You don't want your family to feel like they're being deprived or going on a diet, right? Because what happens? They're gonna crave more sugar. They're gonna crave all these other things, just like when we do it the harsh way. So they're gonna be wondering, where is my spaghetti? Where is my macaroni and cheese? Where are my nuggets? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, so that's step 1. It's really writing down a list. If you just have 10 recipes, maybe you have more that are like real family winners, right? The problem that we have is that there's so many options, it's overwhelming. So narrow it down to a list of 10 to 15 winners for dinner. Okay, you can do this with other meals, but we're just going to do dinner for right now because this is what we mostly struggle with because we're all tired at 6 o'clock and all that stuff. So if you just write down a list of the meals that your family enjoys. Now, if you take a look at that list and you're like, number 2, okay, so number 1 is writing down the list of the family-friendly meals that your family enjoys. And then number 2 is taking a look at those meals and going, how can I make these, if a lot of those meals incorporate, like have our frozen nuggets, then maybe is how can I incorporate healthier options into what my family already enjoys eating? Okay, so I have a ton of web recipes on laurafuentes.com that are exactly that. Healthier options of family favorites. And I do that in our Kickstart meal plan as well, is that from nuggets to pizza to spaghetti night to lasagna, like, there's different versions out there. They feel like they're still eating foods that taste what they're used to, but the presentation might be a little bit different and it incorporates one element from different food groups so everyone can pick and choose. So again, take a look at the meals that your family enjoys and see, is there something I can improve, right? Maybe instead of using boxed mac and cheese and saving those for real emergencies, you can just make stovetop mac and cheese, which takes just as long, right? Except you incorporate milk and cheese. Maybe you have a dairy allergy and go, you know what? Or a food allergy. And you're like, only one of my kids really needs to eat this way. No, get rid of that thinking. Your whole family needs to eat the same things together. So if that dairy-free or that gluten-free recipe isn't really that delicious, then maybe change it so that everyone would enjoy it, but it still meets the dietary criteria. Okay, so again, step one, make a list of the things that everyone enjoys so no one will feel deprived. Number two is take a look at those recipes that are already family friendly and favorites, and see how can I make these more wholesome, or are there other things I can serve? Like you said, Caro, you don't eat spaghetti, so spaghetti night. Are there other elements that I can serve on that spaghetti night so that I feel like I can also enjoy the same meal, okay? And then number three, here's where the plan comes along. You are not gonna do 5 different recipes or 7, one for every day. Like I would tell you, start with just 3 new things. Okay, so if you go to Pinterest or you go to my website and my recipe index, whatever it is, start with 3 recipes that are brand new to you and your family. Okay, so for easy, so I want you guys to visualize for easy visual. Imagine Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the 3 new things. Tuesday, Thursday, you are pulling from that family-friendly, family favorite list and you're plugging them in there. Okay, so Monday's new, Tuesday's a favorite, Wednesday's new, Thursday's a favorite, Friday is new, okay, and Saturday is leftovers. Saturday, that is like kind of like everybody gets catered to. Things are reheated, it's like all of Saturday, everyone's home or you're out. That's where like we just basically eat what's in the fridge. Sometimes and that's where you kind of like, some kid gets a scrambled egg, somebody else gets this at lunch, or sandwiches for the deli meat from the week, so that you can clear out the fridge and make room on Sunday for a, Sunday we usually do like I give myself a break from cooking, but instead of 3 meals of the day, we do like a brunch-ish kind of recipe. So, or meal, which is like usually around 11, we'll all eat. And then something around 5 o'clock as well, that's earlier. So we can, that Sunday meal is something that I tend to do so I can have lunch leftovers for the week. So if it's like a rotisserie chicken on a Sunday meal, I'm gonna throw in 2. If you don't have time for rotisserie chicken, instead of buying 1, buy 2 at the store. So then you can make chicken salads for lunch throughout the week and et cetera, and other things, right? So again, new, favorite, new, favorite, new, favorite. When you repeat this process all the time, it eliminates your kids feeling like they're never eating nuggets, they're never eating their favorites, and it allows you to do the following. If you serve that new meal at the table and you experience some resistance, which is normal, you will then look at your family and go, don't worry. Tomorrow it's going to be a favorite recipe. So they know what to expect, and that not every day it's going to be some stir fry they just can't handle, or some soup they're like, again, because you're providing an element that they'll like, and 2, their favorite meal is just around the corner.
Yeah. You know, one thing that my family is really good at, we're not good meal planners at all, but we are very good at leftovers. That's something that if we're going to make chicken, we make chicken, extra chicken, so that we have for our lunches the next day. If we're going to make, when we make, like let's say taco meat, that we're going to have not only the taco meat, but we're going to make extra ground turkey or ground beef so that we have for our meals. So when people tell me that they don't like leftovers, I feel like it's a tragedy, because leftovers are such a wonderful way to continue eating healthy.
No one likes leftovers for the same thing for 3 days. If you have so many leftovers that you're going to be eating the same leftovers for 3 days, you need to then freeze one left in single size portions. Yeah. So you have what I call microwave meals ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and you said another thing about like somebody has an allergy, and you said no, everybody has to eat the same way. And I completely agree with you. I've had people that come, oh my God, it's so terrible because my family has my son has a gluten allergy and now he can't eat anything. And I'm like, that's wonderful because
Totally.
gluten is not good for you ever. So if you could eliminate it from your house, now you have the perfect excuse to eliminate it from your house. That is wonderful. It's like, that's a win. We've got Vane asking a question. She says a family favorite at her house is picadillo, which is, for those that don't speak English, it's ground turkey, ground beef. And she doesn't eat meat. So how do you feel about her having the vegetarian option for herself?
I feel great about that, and how I would suggest that you do it is by bulk cooking a vegetarian version and freezing it in single portions. So that night where you have picadillo night, you can take out a single portion for yourself, and your plate still looks like what everyone else is eating. Okay. And I do this with like fish night, for example. I have 2 kids who have tried, and no matter what, fish is not their thing, and that's okay. They just don't eat that protein that night. The protein option is eggs, because I have them, there's minimal cooking, and they get, or they're already hard boiled. So that's like, kind of like with a food preference or lifestyle, such as like, I'm the only vegetarian and nobody else is. That's kind of what sorry, with a fish, I have one that can't eat shellfish, sorry. And so, so that's what I do is but that should only be once in a while. The problem is that is when we establish that second meal option or different meal as the expected or the standard. And so that is the big difference. So if it's just one meal that everyone loves, but you just don't have that, then have a similar option there. Or that night, I don't know what you serve picadillo with, but I serve it with like rice and beans and whatnot. So I'm just going to eat the other option. And I'm showing everyone that, hey, I may not enjoy that, but I'm still eating the same things that you are. And also, it's important to look at nutrition not from a single meal perspective, but from a holistic perspective. Okay, did I eat enough protein the entire day? Did my kids get enough of their protein? Did they get enough fruits and vegetables? And if we make sure that we sprinkle all the nutrition throughout the day, then you take out that pressure to make dinner that most nutritious meal ever, right? So that's also really important, because there's so much pressure in dinner. I'm like, forget it. It's like, you're tired. Everyone's tired. Just take that away from that meal and make it more fun and enjoyable. And that's why I said like that 1, 2, 3, like meal planning process really works for most families that are just trying to start to condense the multiple meals into one.
Yeah. And actually, when I said I didn't eat spaghetti, I'm glad that you said this now, because that's actually what we do. So we don't eat spaghetti, but my kids like spaghetti. So if I make them spaghetti, we usually make it with meat sauce, and I have it with miracle noodles or with, like we have edamame pasta, which I offer to the kids, but sometimes they don't want to eat that pasta. And they'll be like, oh, tonight, can we have the regular pasta? So we allow them to have regular pasta, and,
But again, your meal looks like
it does.
What everyone else is eating. You're accommodating for the dietary requirement versus the picky eating. This is a big, big differentiator. And sometimes it gets kind of blurred.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you made the decision. So Candace, hi Candace. So Candace is asking, both of you ladies are gluten-free, or your children also gluten-free? So I want to make this very, very clear. I am not gluten-free. I'm actually not like anything free except probably soda is probably the only thing in the world or junk food. Like soda and fast food restaurants are my absolute non-negotiable boundary. But other than that, I don't have anything free. Like I avoid gluten. I avoid sugars. I avoid simple carbohydrates. I avoid these kinds of meals. I avoid refined cooked oils, but I eat Sometimes I eat sugar, sometimes I eat cooked oils, sometimes I have gluten in my diet. You know, I believe in your diet being primarily a healthy diet, and the way that you avoid things like gluten is by really focusing on whole foods. So I really focus on vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and complex carbohydrates. And when you eat like that, you don't have a whole lot of opportunity for gluten. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't eat it if I were at a dinner, or if I am, you know, if I want to have a sandwich somewhere or whatever, like I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think Laura is gluten-free for medical reasons.
A lot more than you. So I have learned there was a period of time that yes, it was for medical reasons. And I also, like, I've gone through periods of time where I've had to eat ketogenic. This is before keto was a thing, like years ago under doctor supervision. So I have gone through different health issues that food is such a huge part of our health that I have experienced firsthand how small changes have made a huge difference in my health. But I still eat gluten from time to time. I know that I cannot tolerate a bowl of pasta, but I can have a croissant once in a while. So like you, I really believe that when you focus on filling your plate, or you're nourishing your body with primarily foods that have nutrition, then there's less room for the occasional snack so there's many families in my community who have gluten-free kids and not them, or we're gluten-free and not the kids. And again, it's about finding that commonality of the ingredients that you're making in the meals. And there's so many foods that are naturally dairy-free, naturally gluten-free, naturally low in carb, naturally this, right? So instead of saying I can't eat this, these are all, make a list of all the things that you can eat, or all the things that your kids can eat. And again, as long as the meal looks similar, just like with you and your pasta, I would suggest that, just to keep it simple. I mean, honestly, it's not out of necessity, but it's out of simplicity. What's super important.
Yeah, I agree. I like looking. You had said about having 3 new meals a week, and how would you feel about like having 1 new meal a week if you are just such a busy mom, like you have healthy, you know, you have athletes, you have drop-offs, you have so many activities, you have all these other things. How do you feel about even reducing that a little bit more, where you're just to start making the habit to introduce new foods every week, just maybe once or twice a week?
I mean, and that's honestly totally fine. And that's going to depend on how long your step. That's why I say it's so easy. It's just 3 steps. How long is your list of, if you sit, the thing is that we get into this rut because we have no plan. So, but if you sit down and you're like, Laura, it actually turns out that my family, there's a list of like 30 different recipes. Maybe you already have these printed out. Maybe you have them bookmarked on a Pinterest board that's family favorites. My suggestion to you is print those out so that you can see them visually in front of you. And if your list of favorites is really long, I have no problem with that. And you don't even need to incorporate anything new. You know why? Because if you rotate them, that tells me that you are eating a variety of foods throughout the week. So you don't actually need to incorporate anything new if your list is quite long. Or if you're like, I'm kind of running short or whatnot, so then incorporate just 1 meal. The idea is, again, to take a look for most families, the challenge lies in pleasing everyone. So if you stop pleasing everyone and you make sure at every meal, and you make sure that all throughout your weekly plan and throughout your monthly plan, you're right. So everyone has their favorite recipe incorporated, then there's going to be less resistance at meal times. So whether it's 1 new meal or 3, I know that when most of my community members sit down to write those family favorite meals, 1, the list isn't long. 2, they're lost in just how to make them healthier or better. So therefore, their weeks are going to look very similar. So that's why I said, if you have to do 3 meals, everyone can tackle 3 meals. Find things that look like what you're already kind of enjoying, just slightly different, right? Or subscribe to a plan and let somebody else do the thinking for you and select 3 out of the 5 meals for the week.
Yeah, and something that I think is really important to know is that there are healthy meals that kids love, right? So, you know, my kids want to eat unhealthy just like any other kid, and they would rather have pizza than vegetables, you know, on most nights or whatever. But there are certain staples that we have managed to get them to love. And it's an easy thing to, if you've been, you know, sometimes it's the scales are tipped in one side and sometimes they're scaled to tip on the other side. If you've been on a healthy eating kick and you're eating healthy a lot and they want their spaghetti night, then you give them that treat. But sometimes it's been one of those weeks where they had, you know, they had a birthday party, then they had a dinner, then they had pizza at the football game, and it's been all week that they've been eating junky food. And you're like, well, I need to tip the scales in the other direction. It just happened to me a week ago. I was like, gosh, we've been eating crappy all week. This is like not good for the kids. Right. And I said, you know, what healthy meal do you guys want? Because we need to balance. And my middle child was like, I want your cabbage soup. And because he happens to like the cabbage soup. He knows it's healthy. It's full of vegetables. And in his mind, he was like, that's going to even the score. Like we're going to even the score. Cause it's been so, you know, cause it's been tipped in one side or the other. So it's good that kids participate in declaring not only the foods that they like, that they're used to, but also picking favorites from their new meals.
Yes, because it's so important, because it makes them feel like they have input. So it makes them feel valued, okay, in your family unit. So this is really important. This is a lot of the resistance of picky eating is because a child does not feel like they're in control of their food choice and that their opinion matters. So when they are able to come up, you can ask your family members, what foods do we like, to create your list, then that it's just imagine how you feel when your boss or someone asks you for your opinion. You feel valued and recognized. So you're doing the same thing with food. And it doesn't have to be, you know, a new recipe a few times a week. It could just be 2, right? But there's one thing that Livia asked about, all our meals need to be organic. And I will flat out tell you, where I live, I shop at Walmart because I don't have that many options. So my food is not organic. Would I like my food to be organic? Would I love a farmer's market? Absolutely, but it's just not an option for me. So this may be contrary to what you believe and others, but if it means that your family is not going to be exposed to a variety of foods, or that you're not going to be getting nutrition from fresh fruits and vegetables because you don't have organic around you and you're not buying them, then I would highly consider understanding that if organic isn't an option, either financially or where you are, that you still incorporate, that you look at food for its nutritional value. Because organic pasta every night is not better than conventional vegetables every night. So, or organic snacks are not better than a piece of conventional fruit. So again, it's really about looking at the food for the nutrition that it provides, not necessarily, is it organic? Is it dirty? Is it clean? It's more of, is it going to deprive my family of nutrition if I just don't buy it?
I totally agree. And, you know, we're always learning and we're always evolving. So I wouldn't be surprised if like today they say organic blueberries are the way to go. And then tomorrow they're like, oh no, turns out organic blueberries don't have to be organic. You know, those are labels that we put on foods. And I think, we want simple things. So we often tend to look for what's simple, and labels offer that simplicity. So it's very easy to go to a store and find a box and it says sugar free. Well, I want to avoid sugar, so I should buy that. Or it says vegan. Oh, I vegan must be healthy. I need to buy that. Or it should be organic. And just like you said, an organic pasta is never going to be better than a vegetable, than a conventional vegetable. It's just it's never going to be better. So I always encourage people to look at your ingredients and aim to eat whole foods. Whether it's organic or not organic is always like an evolution. Those are choices that you can make for financial reasons or availability or whatever, but look for whole foods. More than labels, because the best foods are usually just one ingredient, which is the ingredient of the food.
Right.
You know, the banana, the apple.
Or if it provides you with a shortcut, a combination of one ingredient foods. Exactly. So this is, a lot of people say, well, does that mean I can no longer get, I don't know, pre-diced this? Or I'm like, no, or canned beans, or I'm like, listen, if it's going, a lot of the foods that I buy are shortcuts of, in combination of one ingredient foods. What we, or just like a rotisserie chicken versus roasting your own. If a $15 organic chicken is just not in your budget, then the $5 Sam's chicken is maybe in your budget. And I mean, buy that, right? So, again, it's about eliminating, like you said, the label and looking at food for the nutritional value that they provide and variety.
Well, this has been so helpful. We have about 3 minutes left. So if there's any last questions that you want to ask of Laura, catch her while you can, because this is your last chance. Or you can also follow her as we shared on Instagram, sign up in her newsletter. We've added the link again for her free ebook download. You can keep in touch with her. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I was going to share this with you at the beginning, but this is one of the recipes that I got from your book, these mini quiches, mini egg bites. And something that I love about cooking is that you get a recipe, and when you get that recipe, at the beginning you follow it exactly as it is, but then you can evolve and you can add cleaner ingredients, you can make it better, you can make it tastier, you can make it even more complicated. And your egg bites was like the beginning of me making those for my kids, and I make them for myself. And just the other day my son was like, Mom, you haven't made us those mini egg bites in a long time. So I want to thank you, because you've given me so many amazing options, and I've learned a lot from you, and it's been an absolute privilege to have you answer questions for my We've got Jess who's asking, as a last before we go, kids' portion sizes. If they want 3 bananas in one meal, do you stop them? That's a great question, Jess.
Yes. Because do you realistically feel like that's appropriate? Period. Would you sit down and eat 3 bananas? No. Like, that's just like it's just like cake. 1 slice of cake. Do you want 3 slices of cake? Like, no. One serving, 1 banana, 1 slice of cake, 1 or 2 cookies, whatever it is that it's like portion sized, right? If bananas are part of the meal for it, like I often buy like a cantaloupe, okay? And cut it up, and that's like a fruit piece for our meal. So there'll be like, especially I do this in stir fry nights when I know that the vegetable portion isn't going to be a winner for everyone because it gets mixed and whatnot. So I'm like, hey, there's also a fruit element to this meal, and there's a protein element, and there's a rice. And so my one kid who just absolutely doesn't eat any of the vegetables, he'll have cantaloupe. Is he going to eat the whole cantaloupe? No, he's going to have a serving of cantaloupe. And again, before bed, everyone is offered, hey, this is your last call if you want a glass of milk, or you want yogurt, or before a snack time. But the idea, it also teaches them portion control, whether it's a healthy food option or a treat, is that 1 serving is what's appropriate. So, and this is a question that parents ask me all the time, but it's fruit. Yes, but fruit, whether it's fruit, if not everyone's having 3 bananas.
Fruit is very high in sugar. It's really,
Yes, but if not everyone's having 3 bananas, or not everyone's having the entire cantaloupe, then that's just not portion appropriate. Does that make sense? So, and there again, remind them, hey, your favorite meal is just around the corner.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Laura. All
My
right,
pleasure.
everybody, you're free to go. I hope you've enjoyed this session. For those of you that are in our membership community, you will have the replay available for you. And those of you that are not in our membership community and want to join, we have Caro's Core Challenge is starting on May 3rd. So stay tuned for that. It's our 28-day challenge that we host once a quarter. So I would love to have you join us. And we also have access to our Core Lifer membership community. So thank you so much. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram at Caroline de Posada, Laura Fuentes, Momables, and my other site, RejuvaFast, so that you could be in the know on all of our exciting and amazing projects. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so
Thanks for having
much.
me.